Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Redmen TV and your latest edition of Liverpool Loan Watch. My name is Dan Clubb. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by former St. Pat's Athletic player Conan Byrne. Conan, how are you, mate? You okay?
Not too bad, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, mate, I'm all good, thanks, mate. Nice one for joining me. Massively appreciated. People may have guessed by the introduction there why we're here talking right now. We're here talking about Marcelo Pitaluga, young Brazilian goalkeeper, of course, on the books of Liverpool, has just been recalled to Liverpool after his brief loan spell over there in Ireland, I think it's fair to say. Yeah, he's been recalled early. It's been cited there was a need for Liverpool's end anyway to get him back involved in the squad. Obviously, pre-season starting over here on the slot. We needed goalkeepers, basically, is the long and short of it. Yeah, let's talk about his time over in Ireland then. Bit of a nightmare start, at least, Conan, is fair to say. I mean, let's go a bit further back than that. When he first got announced as signing, there'd been a Liverpool goalkeeper over there before. Was there a relative amount of excitement? Was there a bit of a buzz? I mean, getting a young Liverpool lad over must be a bit, okay, let's see what this is about.
Yeah, Brazilian as well.
Yeah.
There was huge excitement, Dan, when he first came over because, like you said, there Vidislav Jaras had come over previously back in 2021,
Mhm.
and if you ask any Pats fan who was the best keeper over the last 25, 30 years, he'd be probably up in the top two anyway. So to get another loanee from Liverpool in Pitaluga, there was huge excitement because the success that Jaras had at the club, and where he went from there, then where he's had a great season at Sturm Graz and then obviously in the Czechia squad at the Euros, there was big excitement with Pitaluga coming in because there was all talk that he was an excellent keeper. Um, but look, I think what happened, we'll probably get into it now, but what happened with Marcelo was that he joined his first professional game. Was the President's Cup, similar to the Charity Shield in England, and it was against our St. Pat's rivals, Shamrock Rovers, in Tallaght Stadium. It was a new stadium in Ireland in the last 15, 20 years, but 10,000 seated, and that's the crowd that came to the game. So it was the first time that he's played in a pressurized game, trophy on the line, and unfortunately he made a poor mistake for one of the goals, and it looked like it weighed heavily on him. Then going into the League of Ireland season, um, his debut game, league debut, was down in Galway, and he kept a clean sheet in a 1-0 victory, which was great for the club and for him, I'm sure.
Mm.
After the previous week where he made the mistake against Shamrock Rovers in the President's Cup, but then the kind of tables turned again. A 1-0 defeat at home to Bohemians, again another Dublin team, a Dublin derby. You don't lose those games in especially early on the season. And then it was a live televised game up in Derry, which I was doing for RTE actually. So I was behind the goal where Marcelo was in the second half,
Mhm.
and he just didn't. He just felt a bit tentative in the goal. Wasn't usually what you want your keeper. You want your keeper coming for crosses, and in the League of Ireland, that's what happens. You get bombarded with crosses, corners, free kicks into the box, and you put them in on top of the keeper. Especially young new goalkeepers to the league who aren't used to that physical side of the game. And yeah, he struggled, and
Yeah.
there was a mistake in that game as well. But there was a really poor mistake in the following week against Waterford. And St. Pat's, for anybody that might know, that they would have been challenging for the league this season. After winning the FAI Cup last season, similar to the FA Cup,
Mhm.
and finishing second in the league. So it was a really poor start, and it's like that Marcelo was a scapegoat. In somebody would have to have come out of the team, and because of the mistakes that he made in those early part of the season, he was taken out, and unfortunately for him, he wasn't put back in.
Yeah,
So
that's tough.
that
That's really hard. Yeah, especially for a young goalkeeper. You mentioned the age thing there, and I was going to ask you about that because a lot of the mistakes you're referring to there, obviously a pressure environment. He hasn't really experienced anything like that. He played a little bit on loan at Macclesfield last season, but you might be talking crowds of three, four, 500 tops. I would have thought down at that level. He's been obviously in the academy football a lot where the environment's entirely different. You might get 20, 30, 40, 50 people watching if you're lucky some days. So do you think it was that? And do you think it was just his real youth, especially for the goalkeeping terms? Because as we know, goalkeepers go on until late into the 30s. They don't hit the prime, their peak until the mid 30s, sometimes early 30s, really at the earliest. So yeah, it's hard that, isn't it?
incredibly hard. And there's not many goalkeepers in the League of Ireland that kind of come in and are first choice at that age.
Mm.
Um, There was, when I was at the club, there was a goalkeeper there that was there for 6, 7 years, number one. And ever since then, he left. Yaros came in, and ever since then, they haven't had a steady number one over the last number of years. And that's difficult. That's difficult. It's a difficult position on the pitches, Dan, to try and get sorted. But I suppose the excitement that when he was announced that he was coming in, and in Richmond Park, the home of St. Pat's, you're literally on top of the players. The ground is kind of, you walk, you can't see the ground from the road. You walk, it's nearly behind some houses, and it's down in a little dip. So the stand is around that. So you're right, and you can hear everything. And for a 21-year-old goalkeeper, and it can be very difficult, especially hear negative comments, because ultimately that's what he received in those early games, which wasn't very nice. As I said, for a young goalkeeper, and like you said there, Dan, it's a huge step up from playing developmental leagues at 18s, 21s, 23s at Liverpool, obviously on loan at Macclesfield as well, to come over to play in the League of Ireland, which has grown in stature hugely since COVID, where most League of Ireland grounds are sold out every week. You can't get a ticket for some games, so you're looking at no more like 4,000 plus at most games, and sometimes the pressure can get the players. And it just felt like that with Marcelo, certainly early on. Now, from speaking to people within the club, in those type of times, you can easily throw your toys out of the pram when you're dropped from a team. You're expecting to play, but it was the complete opposite with him. He really got down and grafted. He stayed back after training and worked on his game. Great around the place. Great support to the player that went in his place, Danny Rogers. So yeah, he was an ultimate professional at his time from the start, right up until he was recalled.
Yeah, that's a massive positive, that right there. And I wanted to touch on that really because I guess away from the pressure environment that is out there in the middle, did people talk about the signs of the quality and training and stuff like that? And I guess in the matches as well, you must have seen, as well as the mistakes, which are unfortunate, especially when you get off to a bad start, you can spiral out of control very, very quickly. You need to win the fan base over immediately. If you don't do that, you're on a hide into nothing, it felt like. So did you see moments and glimpses of why he is on the books of Liverpool and stuff like that during his time?
Oh, absolutely. And then from speaking to people within the club and training, he was outstanding. He just didn't transfer it over into the matches in those early periods. And it was unfortunate that he didn't get a second chance at it, probably just because there was a change in manager as well. That and you just want a bit of stability, certainly in that area of the pitch. But yeah, even the game that I covered up in Derry, albeit when the balls were put in on top of him, he wasn't coming for his crosses like I'm sure he would like to.
Yeah.
When the ball was at his feet, you could see that there was quality there. A bit like Queevy at Liverpool, where he's very good with the ball at his feet and playing it out from the back. Marcelo might have overhit one or two into touch, but he always wanted to play out from the back. But yeah, I just think it was just a step up from playing like on loan at Macclesfield, no disrespect, the developmental league at Liverpool, to make that massive step up and make those early mistakes really damaged his confidence. And it was difficult to come back from that.
Yeah, confidence is massive in football, full stop, let alone as a goalkeeper, especially a young one, so wet behind the ears still. Yeah. On the manager thing, you mentioned it there. I think Stephen Kenny isn't the manager there now. He commented on his early exit last week. He said, "We said goodbye to Marcelo Pitaluga, a great guy, and he has a good career ahead of him, I think." Do you sort of echo those sentiments from what you've seen and what you've heard? Again, so young, so difficult to tell. But have you seen enough there to suggest that he does have a good career ahead of him?
Do you know what I think, Dan? I think that when Marcelo is like 28, 29, 30, he'll look back on this period as a huge learning curve for him. Because football isn't all rosy. He might have expected to come over and be unbelievable and fans cheering his name every single week. So it might have been a little bit of a wake-up call, give it that. Yeah. But his ultimate professionalism that he gave to St. Pat's was what stood out the most, I suppose, from talking to people within the club, the ultimate professional. But like I said, I think he'll see this as a huge learning curve. The next part of his career is going to be vital. I'm going to be very interested to see where he'll go next, and to see if he's picked up the learnings that he is and the mistakes that he's made, and see if he's learned from that. And it'll be key. It'll be tough. But I think it'll be, as I said, a huge journey for him that he's gone on at St. Pat's, and one that he'll look to put right the next time.